Hi again, everyone, and welcome to today's WordPress.com quick start session on blogging. As always, we are so thankful for those of you who took the time to register and join us. We hope today's session on blogging will be really helpful to get you started and up and running with your WordPress.com blog or website. And a couple quick announcements, of course. As always, you can register for each of our daily webinars at WordPress.com/webinars. Tomorrow we'll be covering WooCommerce. On Friday, we'll have a Spanish language quick start, and then we'll start the sessions over again on Monday. So please join us as often as we can possibly help you here. And as always, you can reach our incredible happiness engineers at wordpress.com/support. We're recording today's session. We'll share it out later on in an email along with a survey and a discount code for you, those of you watching with us today. And please engage with us in the Q&A in Zoom today. We're not using chat, we're using Q&A. So feel free to ask questions along the way about blogging, and we will definitely do our very best to answer as many of those as we can, and we'll save some to ask Austin later on in the webinar. So with that, I'm very, very excited to introduce our colleagues today, Lai, working with me behind the scenes in the Q&A to answer your questions along the way, and of course, Austin, who's going to take us through today's quick start on blogging. Take it away, Austin. Good to see you today.
Good to see you too. And just setting up my screen share now. All right, so we should be seeing my screen. And I'll give you a quick introduction here. So I'm just looking at a test site that I've created, Test Kitchen, a site for testing and tasting. And here I'm using the Hever theme, and we'll be working on a site that's on a WordPress.com personal plan, but this would work just as well on premium, business, or e-commerce. Here I've filled in a little bit of sample content. I put in a title here. I have just a few sample posts. Each of these really just a featured image, a title, and then just a little bit of text here just to kind of fill in some space, just to give us an example to sort of get started with. And as you can see here, my site isn't launched yet. So right now we're viewing it signed in as myself. But once I do get my site ready, I'm able to click on this pink button here to launch my site and make it publicly viewable. Over here, I have my dashboard open, and this is where I'd go about making changes to my particular site. Today, we're talking about blogging. So we're gonna go to Site, and this is where we would see all of our content, any pages listed here in Pages, and then over here, any posts listed in Posts. Here, we're able to see I have 5 demo posts, each with just a title, featured image, and a little bit of demo content. And today we're going to be working on a draft post. And so I started working on it. I've added a little bit of information and I've clicked on Save as Draft. That's why it's available here. And when we're done with the post today, I'll click on Publish and it'll move over to our little Publish section here. So I'm gonna click on our post. I called it Pasta. And here, just a short title and then a block of text. And for anyone new to blogging, I imagine many of your posts may start out looking like this. I know a lot of mine did. Really just paragraphs of text, nothing really to it. And today we're going to talk about how to make that a little bit more engaging. So at the top here, we have a title. And a good place to get started, especially for search engine optimization, or even just trying to build an audience and make your content a bit more engaging, is to create a more specific title. So right now we have pasta here, but maybe we want to get more specific. Maybe this is a whole wheat pasta with mushroom sauce, let's say. So I'm just going to type that in. There we go. And so now I've made a little bit more detailed of a title here. Anyone looking up maybe like mushroom recipes or mushroom sauce or looking up whole wheat, they'll be able to find this post. And so by adding in those additional terms here and getting a little bit more specific, hopefully I'll be able to build a bit more of an audience to this post. In addition to that, let's say here that maybe this is just my paragraphs. If anyone's read over this, you can see this is all just food words. It's all just filler text that's food themed. But let's say maybe this section here was maybe just a short introduction, maybe talking about how it was a cold day and I wanted something warm to eat. Down below, we can say here that this is where I'm really starting to kind of get into the topic itself. So this might be a good place to put in a subheading, something underneath just the title itself. And so I just pressed enter on my keyboard, then click on plus here to add a block. And I'm just going to start to type in heading. And here we can see heading appearing. And here, let's say maybe this will be an overview. And so we can kind of, sort of talk about what these paragraphs are going to be about. We'll give them a general topic of overview. And then down below, let's say maybe here I want to put in a little bit of information, maybe the history of the dish, what it means to me. And so we can see I've already added one heading. So when I clicked on the plus to add a block, WordPress.com already suggested in the most used section that heading block. So I'm going to click on that. And here we can say maybe this is the history of the dish itself, a few paragraphs about that. Down here at the bottom, let's say this is the actual recipe. So I'll click to add a block in our heading here. Let's say this is our recipe itself. And then down here, maybe I want to put in a subheading. So within the recipe, a good place to start would be our ingredients. There we go. And so right now, and you've probably noticed this with my other headings, they all have this little H2 on them, indicating that it's the second highest level. Highest level being the title itself, H1, H2. But since ingredients is going to sort of live underneath our heading of recipe, let's make this an H3. And notice it got just a little bit smaller. And instead of a paragraph here, let's make this a little bit easier to read. So I think a good example might be a list. And so we'll say item 1, item 2, each of these are ingredients, pasta sauce, there we go. And below that, let's put in another subheading. And so this one here, let's say we'll do a heading, and this can be preparation. There we go. And we'll make this a subheading as well, an H3. And so you're able to see big heading, recipe, and then smaller headings, ingredients, and preparation inside of it. And so before we were working with the ingredients, we wanted an unordered list. It doesn't really matter the order so much. But for the preparation, we need to follow these steps one at a time. So I'm going to press enter. I'll click to add in our list right here. And then instead of choosing the unordered list, I'm going to choose the ordered list. And for item 1, we can say gather ingredients to mix together. And you could continue to have the steps down below. And then maybe down here at the very bottom, we want to just put in one final heading. And this could just be our notes section. So we'll do an H3 here. And we can just say notes. There we go. And here, just a little bit of information. And so already we haven't even added in any images. We haven't added any videos. We've just worked with text. And already this is looking a lot easier to read. We've broken up sections of this post into different topics using headings. Down below, we've been able to make the recipe and preparation section a little bit more engaging using both unordered and ordered lists. And so as I'm working, I just want to make sure I'm saving my changes. So I'm going to click on save to save that. And next, let's take a look at our documents. And so over here on the right-hand side, we're seeing options specific to the entire post. Here we're able to see when the publish date would be, whether or not we would want this to be public or private. Here under revisions, we'd even be able to click and see earlier versions, maybe going back and seeing what it looked like a few minutes ago before I added those headings. The permalink section here, this is going to be the link itself on how you would actually get to this particular post. And so remember, originally I'd given it the title pasta. And so we're seeing that right here, pasta in bold. But we want this to be a little bit more specific. So I'm just going to copy our text from here, and I'm going to replace this. There we go. And you see I just clicked away and it filled in some hyphens in between. And so now we have a more descriptive post title. It's including whole wheat, pasta, mushroom, sauce, lots of words that would be related to this particular recipe. So I'm going to click on Save Draft, and we're just saving our changes as we go. Next, we have the option down here to organize this post into categories. And so organizing into categories can be really useful because we can set up category pages. So a certain page that shows only posts of the category breakfast or only posts of the category dessert. And so in this case, not a breakfast or a dessert, this would be a pasta dish. So I'm going to click on Add New Category. And here I'm just going to type in pasta. And actually, let's capitalize that. And I'm going to add that category. And so now we have pasta added as a category for this post. And I'm going to uncheck uncategorized since we only want to use the pasta category here. And just one thing worth mentioning, you can set multiple categories. You know, for example, maybe this is a breakfast pasta or some kind of delicious dessert pasta that is yet to be invented. But we'd be able to select multiple categories if we'd like. And then down below, we have a section for tags. And so typically what I recommend is categories are going to be your broader topic. And then tags will be a little bit more specific. Generally, you'll have more tags than you will categories. And for each of these, we can actually separate them with a comma. So let's put in pasta, how about sauce, mushroom, maybe whole wheat. And so I'm just pressing comma, and that's creating a tag for it. And so the same way that we can view different posts by the category they're in, we can also view them by the tags they're in. So once we publish this and we look at it on the site, which we'll do later, we would be able to click on pasta and see all of the pasta posts, or clicking here on the pasta category and seeing all of the posts with the category pasta. Next, we have the option here for a featured image. And so if you've ever shared a link onto social media, such as maybe Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, you've probably seen that link where it's going to be a title, which we'll set here. Of course, it'll be that URL, how you'd actually get to it, usually underneath. And then often off to the side, there's usually a section where you can put in an image, a little thumbnail image. And this is where we'd go about setting that. So I'm going to click on Set Featured Image, and this is going to open up my media library. Here I'm able to see a few images that I've already been able to bring in through Pexels, our free photo library. So I'm just going to choose this pasta one and click on Insert. And now we have a featured image of this delicious pasta. And this would appear as that thumbnail image on social media. Scrolling down, we have an excerpt section here. The reason this is marked as optional is most search engines and social media will pull in the first few lines of text. But since that's automatic, maybe you want a little bit more control over it. So let's say maybe this sentence here is a particularly good overview of this topic. So I'd actually just paste that in here. But it's also up to you. If you preferred, you could write out just a custom excerpt, maybe a sentence or two. And so off to the side, all this information that we've been able to fill in here, search engines pay attention to this. They see this information. And basically, the more information you can give to search engines, the more they'll know about your post, and the better they'll be able to recommend that in a search result, maybe for something like whole wheat pasta or mushroom sauce. And so at this point, we've been able to add in some permalinks here. So this URL, our category, what the overall topic is, some tags here, so specific points that we discuss, or in this case, ingredients in the tag section, a featured image, and an excerpt. All of these very important. But in the post itself, we're still just seeing text. So let's add in some images. So I'm gonna press enter. I'm gonna click on this plus, and let's add in an image. And so here, I'm just adding an image block. I have the option to click upload and upload an image right from my desktop, from my computer, or clicking on media library, which we'll do. I'm able to see some images that I've already uploaded, or in this case, have gotten from our free photo library, Pexels. And so let's bring in maybe this delicious pasta image here. And I'll make this a little bit smaller. I want this one to be a little bit smaller. So I've clicked on the blue dot on the right and just drag that in a little bit. Down here in overview, maybe I want to put in a few images here. So I'm going to do a gallery. And this is an easy way just to add in a few images, maybe side by side. Once again, same options. I can click upload and upload from my desktop or media library. And let's bring in a few images here, maybe this one and this one here. And so I've inserted those. We can see those are both appearing side by side. And I could even add additional ones by clicking here and then uploading or going to media library. If I decide I don't like these images, I can click on the X to remove them, or click on these arrows here to move the order of them around. And so yeah, we have those two images side by side. Down here in history, I'm gonna add in another image. So pressing enter, clicking on add block, clicking on image, choosing media library. And then here we go, we can put in picture of a chef working on the preparation. And so, yeah, our post is looking pretty good now. I'm going to click on publish to save it. And so you'll notice here, right before I click on publish, I have a few options. Under public, I could set this to be public so everyone could view it. I could set it to private, so maybe only the other people I've added to my site, maybe my staff, maybe this is an organization. They could all take a look, give me some feedback on it. And then later I could change it to public. Or the final one, setting as password protected. So maybe I do want this to be available to someone else. I want to have a friend who's not a member of my site, maybe take a look at it real quick. So I'd set it as password protected, then maybe let them know of that password. They could take a look at it and say like, yep, that makes sense. Or, no, whole wheat's one word, and, quickly get that fixed. Other options down here, publish. You can actually set the date for this to be published. You could set this into the future or into the past. Setting this into the past might be useful if I'm trying to get started with my site and I want to fill in some existing posts. When people do come and see it, they can see a few previous posts that I'd already created. Or additionally, maybe Sunday's my day to write posts, and I'll write up a few of them, and then I could schedule them so that this one goes out this Sunday, and the following Sunday another one goes out. Kind of automate that process for me. If you're running a business, this could also be useful if you're maybe doing a product launch. You don't want to stay up until midnight, to release that blog post. So we're going to set this though to publish today and now, and that is April 29th. There we go. And let's say 12:15. I'm clicking on the publish option. Now I'm going to click on view post, and let's take a look. So here at the top, we have that featured image that we set. And then here we have our text, our images, courtesy of Pexels, our overview. Here's that gallery we added. Here's the other image we added. And then here our heading and subheadings for recipe and ingredients, unordered list, ordered list, and then here just some notes. And then we can see down here, this is the category pasta. So if I click on this, it's going to bring us to a page that shows only posts of the category pasta. And then over here, we can see my tags as well. So if I click on, let's say mushroom, this would be only posts with the tag of mushroom. And so this could be a good way to organize your site. So as an example here under recipes blog, I've already added a page for the category of breakfast. So if I click on this, this is going to show us only posts of the category breakfast. So here we have butter croissant, breakfast scramble, and scrolling down the list, you would see additional options. Okay, and let's open this up for some questions. Does anyone have any questions?
Hey, Austin, awesome and appetizing as always. Thank you for the blog launch overview. Some great questions coming in that Lai has been handling in Q&A. Phone lines are still open, people, keep them coming. There's been some really good ones already. There was one that you just answered, I think, pretty well on the difference between category and tags. And there's one or two that we'll get right into here on kind of at the feature level and then kind of at the blogging best practices level. I don't think you're probably going to have time to answer the question of dessert pastas that you teased us with today.
One day.
So hopefully that will pop up in a future webinar. But let's start with a couple feature level ones. I think you touched on this, but a couple people asked loosely about inviting others to view your blog. And you touched on public versus private. Christina asked about how do I invite others to view my blog? And someone else asked along the way if you need a WordPress.com account to view, for example, a colleague's blog post that they share with you if it's private. So maybe you could just show us that setting again and just touch a little bit on how you would share, for example, a private post and then when you flip it over to public.
Okay, yeah, and so we're kind of looking at that at two levels right now, just because this site is sort of under construction. This site is set as private currently, so no one would be able to see it other than you. But if you did want to invite someone to see a site, like a whole site that's private, you'd go down to Manage and click on People, and then here we're able to see me, and under Followers, if someone was following the site, we would see them here. And we can also click on invite, and we can invite someone to either be a viewer on this private site or even give them some responsibilities as well. So maybe I want to hire an editor to look over my, my post before I send them out. What I would do here is I would either type in this person's username or I would type in their email address. So if they have a WordPress.com username, I would put that in here. If they don't have a WordPress.com account though, I can put in their email address and they'll receive an email that'll allow them to create a WordPress.com account and also invite them in to be a user on the site. And we even include a small section here for a custom message. If you wanted to just kind of explain, you know, I'm inviting you as an editor. I'd love for you to take a look at some posts, you know, any information you'd want to share here, and click on send the invitation. But let's say maybe we've launched this site already. We've gone down to settings and then we've clicked on launch site, and now our site is public and anyone can view it. And so at that point, when you have a public site, anything here that's already published is going to be visible to the world, to anyone who went to your website and clicked on a certain recipe. So let's click on whole wheat pasta as our example. Here, if this site was public, we'd have a few options. On visibility, I can set specifically just this post to be private, meaning that anyone from that previous screen, anyone who I did invited as an editor, as a viewer, as another admin, would be able to see the site here. So anyone who's an admin or an editor would be able to see this private page. And then, yeah, if I wanted to share maybe a link with someone who wasn't a member of my site, but I didn't want everyone else to see that, I could set it to be password protected and then choose a short password. Here, I would just type that in. You know, maybe I put in, you know, pasta sauce or, you know, something like that. And then what I would do is I would share this link with that particular person. They'd be able to click on the link. There'd be a small field there where they could enter in that password that I'd shared with them, and they could take a look at it.
Excellent. Excellent overview of settings in general, and then kind of the different ways that you can invite people to collaborate with you on your site. Sarah and Christina and others had asked related questions to that topic. Semi-related, Austin, you touched on this as well, but Nicole asked, how do you set up posts for immediate release versus, you know, posting? I guess, let me reframe the question a bit. When you publish a post, does it immediately go live? And if you don't want that, how could you change it so that it's scheduled, for example, for the future or backdated for the past? I think you showed this setting briefly, but if you could walk us through that again as well.
Yeah, happy to. And it's a really nice feature that we have. That's going to be right here within visibility. So if we look at publish right here, I can click on this. This will bring up a small date picker, and then I can choose when this would be published, either at some point in the past or at some point in the future. By default, it'll just set to publish immediately. So yeah, clicking on this or just creating a post here, clicking on publish, it's going to just fill in the current time. So by default, any post written will be published immediately, but you do have the option to set it to be a date in the past or a date in the future.
Excellent. Excellent. A couple other questions while we're looking kind of at the post level. Katie asks, how do I optimize for search engines? And I think you could look at this at the individual post level and at the site or blog level. What's your starting point for that, for optimizing for search?
Okay, yeah, let's start big and kind of drill down. So overall with the site, let's take a look here. I'm just going to refresh our page. Here we can see our recent posts that we've added. You're going to want to stay on message with whatever you're looking for. So what that looks like on a high level view is if you're making a website and you want to show up for keywords like pasta or butter croissant or things like that, you're going to want to make sure that you're actually talking about those keywords, those topics. You know, maybe that you have a few different posts about different kinds of croissants, or you have a few different posts about different kinds of pasta. Also make sure that you're regularly producing new content. So that might look like posting recipes maybe once or twice a week, maybe even more frequently than that. In addition to regularly making that content, trying to give yourself somewhat of a schedule as well on when you do post them. So not just posting twice a week, but trying to make sure that you post around the same times when you do post twice a week. So maybe that looks like, a post every Tuesday afternoon and a post every Friday morning, anything like that. So regularly creating new content. Also making sure that your site does have a lot of content on there. Generally, search engines like to be able to recommend sites that do have a lot of content. If you only have maybe 1 or 2 posts on your entire site, it may be difficult to rank. Another thing to mention here is also specificity. It'd be very difficult to be the #1 search engine result for food, or even for pasta for that matter. But it would be a lot easier to be the #1 result, or at least appear on the first page of Google for something like whole wheat pasta with mushroom sauce. If someone's looking for something like that, and you're going that specific, that's going to be really helpful. For a lot of businesses, it's going to be adding your locale to it, not just going for electrician or plumber, but Akron, Ohio electrician, or Jacksonville, Florida plumber, but being able to put in kind of those specifics. That's going to be really helpful. And then looking on a more specific level within your post itself, we kind of touched on a little bit of this, but making sure you have an accurate and descriptive title. Here, mixing in, making sure that you're mentioning your keyword, whatever that is, maybe multiple keywords. So here, if I'm talking about whole wheat pasta, trying to make sure whenever I do refer to the pasta that I do call it whole wheat pasta. Or when I do talk about the sauce, I'm descriptive with it. And I say the mushroom sauce that I'm adding to the recipe. And then additional options, we kind of started talking about this, but the descriptive title here, making sure that your slug here, the permalink down below, is actually showing that information. So you're seeing that keyword of whole wheat, that keyword of mushroom pasta. Here I've chosen a descriptive category as well. So this is pasta. And then down here for tags, I've chosen a few specific tags that are relevant to this, this particular dish. And then here I've set a featured image, and I've also included an excerpt. And here in this excerpt, you'd want to make sure that you are mentioning those keywords, that you're trying to appear for. And also importantly, when I do mention keywords over here on the side, make sure that you actually are mentioning those inside of your post itself.
Excellent, Austin. That's great. That touches on a number of questions that came in from Lydia and Shaunak and others who talked about best practices for posting and blogging in general, as well as some of those specifics of being SEO friendly. Do you happen to know, by the way, if using a URL shortener when you're sharing a post out, if that hurts your SEO? That's a pretty nitty gritty SEO question, but I'm
not sure on that. I don't think it would actually affect it. I think if you were sharing a shortened URL with a friend outside of a search engine, I don't think that search engine would come into play there at all.
Okay, excellent. And an even complimentary social sharing question coming up. A quick shout out from Dawn. Austin, you are my favorite. Thank you so much for the information. People are gobbling up the blogging best practices. Just a few more. I know we're close to the half-hour mark, but some good questions are still coming in. Jan asks, how do you share your posts to social media? And again, a lot of these questions here about growing the audience, making sure people see what you create and what you write. What's your top tip for social sharing, Austin?
Okay, yeah, so a few things that we can kind of talk about in there. First off, let's talk about our publicize option. And so if we go down to tools here, we can click on marketing. And then over here, we have connections, and then click on this. And this would allow us to share our post automatically to these different social medias. So here we have an option to share to a Facebook page. So as an example here, maybe I have a business Facebook page called Test Kitchen. And so whenever I create a new post, this would automatically share to my Test Kitchen business Facebook page. And that would just be a matter of clicking on connect. It's going to bring up a small window here, just allowing me to log into Facebook and select that page. Under Twitter here, I'd be able to do the same thing. Click on connect on the right-hand side, put in my Twitter information. LinkedIn, Tumblr, same thing. And so once all of these are connected, or any combination of them, whenever I create a new post, it would automatically be shared to these social networks as if I had posted it on there myself. And that would be for any of them that I have connected. The other option here is our sharing buttons. And so these buttons will appear underneath each post. So if we come here and click on a post, let's take a look. So down here at the bottom, you see there's an option to like. This site is private right now, so we're not seeing any other options beyond this. But if this was a public site, what we could do is over here, I could click on add sharing buttons, and I'd have a number of options appearing here to share to Reddit, to Pinterest, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. I believe there's about 20 social networks we support, so quite a few options. Also the ability just to email it to a friend or print it out on your home computer. And those would all appear down here. So the difference between this and the publicize option, the publicize option would automatically share those posts to my social network, whereas these options would appear as buttons underneath the post. And if I'm someone else viewing this site and I see this and I really like it, maybe I can click on that Facebook button and I can share a link to this site and this particular post onto my social network, with my friends. And so that way you have all your visitors coming to your site and they're actually doing some of that advertising work for you. Publicize is sharing your own. These sharing buttons are allowing visitors to share with their friends. So very helpful there. Additional options in here, just kind of while we're on the topic of social media, is you can create a social option here. This is the social links menu. And each of these in theory would bring you to my Facebook account, my Twitter account, my Pinterest account. And that can be set from design. This is where you make all of your big picture changes to your site, including a theme. So I'd click on customize here. On the left-hand side, we'll have some customization options. Right-hand side, a preview of the site, how it appear to a visitor. And we're talking about the social links menu. So I'm gonna click on menu, and here it's called social. And then in here for each of these, I would just replace facebook.com with my Facebook URL, most likely facebook.com/ maybe test kitchen as our example. And I would just kind of go down the list, replacing Twitter with mine, Instagram with mine, and then clicking on save to save those changes. And that's going to affect these here where people can then connect with me.
Excellent, Austin. Really good detailed overview on connecting social. It's so important to amplify your content to your audiences and the other ways that WordPress.com helps you publicize and amplify your content. Let's bring it home on just kind of one or two last quick related questions. Sarah asked, and these, Austin, are more along the lines of, as you get the momentum going as a blogger, as a writer, a content creator, some next steps type stuff, and we can keep these pretty short. But Sarah asked, how long should I wait as a blogger before deciding to add ads? Is there a magic number of followers or daily visits before I should consider adding, for example, word ads to my site?
Yeah, that's a good question. And one thing I like to mention, if you're on the personal plan, you can apply for word ads. If you're on the premium business or e-commerce plans, you can use word ads automatically. And that's a matter of going to tools, clicking on earn, and then in here we have a few options. Earn ad revenue is what we would want. And here you can see we're just being prompted to upgrade to premium. In general, I would say trying to build that following, getting like a regular number of viewers coming in can be really helpful. It kind of depends on the topic of your site. But I would say probably a few thousand monthly views would be a good starting point. Because once you get to that, you're getting regular traffic. And if you're in the few thousand mark, any dips are still, quite a few people coming into the site. So I'd probably recommend, I would say a few thousand for that, for enabling ads.
Love it. And shout out to our Tuesday topic on payments. We talk about word ads and other ways to earn on your site, including collecting payments, collecting subscriptions, and tune in on Tuesday if you want to go deep on earning. And also for tomorrow's topic, WooCommerce, which is really e-commerce specific. Bringing us home, Austin, I'll take this one. Shaunak asked, content or writing skills, what matters most? As a longtime writer and reader, I just advise finding your voice takes time, honing your content and your style of writing takes time, but the part that matters along with that is getting your content out to the audience. And so many of those tips that Austin has shared as far as social and SEO optimization, they go hand in hand. The better your content, the better your storytelling, the better your imagery is, the more your audience is going to find you. But you also want to take each of these steps that Austin's walked us through to go find your audience. So Austin, thanks for covering so much ground there. Open-ended question for you to close, sir. Lydia asks, I'm interested in best blogging practices. She asked that at the beginning of today's webinar. I think you've covered a number of good ones. What is your number one piece of advice for someone starting their WordPress.com blog today?
I would say try and find ways to lower that barrier to entry. I think probably a lot of blogging really comes down to building that momentum. I think a good portion of it probably is psychological. As soon as you start, it's easier to continue blogging than it is to kind of get that inertia to just begin. So I would say when you write your first post, try and keep it short, try and keep it basic. Just get something down. That's a good way to start. A lot of times a good first post might be why you're creating this particular blog, maybe an introduction, and then from there kind of outlining what you're going to talk about. So I'm making this site, it's all about sharing recipes, and the reason I created this is I had a hard time finding recipes online that incorporated mushrooms or that incorporated whole wheat foods, things like that. And then also kind of explaining to your audience in that post what you're going to be doing. So moving forward, I'm going to be creating weekly or bi-weekly posts about foods such as whole wheat pasta or mushroom sauce or butter croissants, things like that. But yeah, number one is just kind of start to build that momentum of regularly creating content. And I think a lot of this along the way will sort of start to happen. As you write descriptive posts, you're going to mention those keywords. That's just going to come naturally. And as you get into this, you'll probably want to start improving your posts by adding in some images. And, it's slowly going to build from there. And I think your audience will appreciate that.
Well, that's fantastic, Austin. I apologize to all. I've taken us well into overtime, but there was some really good questions and some really, really good how-to from Austin. As always, if we didn't get to your question, find support down there in the lower right when you're logged into WordPress.com, or visit WordPress.com/support. You get to interact with our incredible happiness engineers and everyone who supports you on your WordPress.com journey, including Austin, also including Lai, who is behind the scenes answering about 36 questions today during the webinar, as well as cherry picking those on this. We know this topic is such an important one and really resonates with our many, many users. So thank you to both Austin and Lai. Also a huge shout out to Selena, who's on today's webinar, who has really set up these daily webinars starting early last week. Incredible job to get this daily content, this daily session rolling for our users. We hope you're all enjoying it. Once again, check out support if you need help right now. Check out WordPress.com/webinars for the rest of the upcoming schedule. Look for your email later today or tomorrow with today's video and a survey. And above all, Austin, thank you for today's walkthrough.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And thank you all for joining us. Have a great rest of your day.